more nervous folks up here, but I am. I'm nervous, but I don't know if I'll be sounding like Minister Ben.
Amen.
Praise God.
Hey.
Praise God.
The word will be coming out of Psalms 104, verses 19. Verses 19 is the focus, but I read Psalms 104, 19 through 29. He appointed the moon for seasons. The sun knoweth his going down. Thou makest darkness, and it is night, wherein all the beasts of the forest do creep forth. The young lions roar after they prey, and seek their meat from God. The sun ariseth, they gather themselves together, and lay them down in their dens. Man goeth forth into the work, and to his labor until the evening. O Lord, how manifold are thy works, in wisdom hast thou made them all. The earth is full of thy riches. So is this great and wide sea, wherein all things creeping innumerable, both small and great beasts. There go the ships, there is that Leviathan, whom thou hast made to play with therein. These wait all upon thee, that thou mayest give them their meat in due season. That thou givest them, they gather, thou openest thine hand, they are filled with good. Thou hidest thy face, they are troubled, thou takest away their breath, they die and return to their dust. Today my word is about what season are you in? And do you know your place of your setting? From the time that God thought of a creating of us, from our coming in to our going out, we go through seasons. The moon in Psalms 104 and 19, to me, it's about the moon is to distinguish the times of the seasons, but the sun knew its place of its setting. Depending on where you're at in your seasons can change more significantly. We got to recognize and acknowledge our season. If we are still in the season of newborn babies,
all right,
and we're still in the season of wearing newborn onesies, because we're newborn Christians, we cannot try and go and put on a 6 to 9 month onesie on when we're not in that season yet.
Right, right. Come on.
And vice versa.
Amen.
If God is trying to move us into those 6 to 9 months onesies, we cannot stay stagnant in the season that we are still in the newborn stage when He's trying to move us into a different stage, different season. Because we are in the fear of the new season. When babies learn how to crawl, their next stage is to learn how to walk.
Right.
But if we stay trying to continue to crawl, how will we ever learn how to walk?
Right.
Just because we're scared of that next stage. Babies get scared of walking because sometimes they fall, sometimes they're stumbling, they're wobbling, they're not stable yet.
Right, right.
So they're scared to walk into that next season. They're scared to get up and learn how to walk because it's the next season of their life. It's the next stage of their life.
Right.
Sometimes we fall from the things that we go through in life. Sometimes we stumble because of the mistakes and the choices that we make in our life. So we're scared to continue to keep trying and move on to that next stage in our life and that next season in our life.
Right, right.
So do we know the season that we're in? We have to acknowledge the season that we're in right now. So sometimes we get nervous. We don't want to try anymore. We fall again, and we just want to give up and don't want to move into the next season. We have to recognize our season and what season we are in, who is in it, and some of the people who are in our season. Are the things in our season and the people in our season, are they there for a lifetime or are they only there for a season?
Right.
The moon to me is God. In the word it says He appointed the moon for season and the sun knoweth his going down. The moon to me is God. The sun is Jesus. There is different seasons that we go through. For me, to give you some of of where I come from and where I'm at, there is winter, there's spring, there's fall, there's summer. In my winter, God kept me still. He brought me back to him, and during that season I learned more about him and I prayed more. During that season was a time in my life where I got separated from my husband. We were separated for some things that he had done within our marriage, and so we got separated. But during that time and in that season of my life, it took me back to God. I was 13, 14 years old, and I used to be in church. There's a difference. I used to be in church, but not in his word because I had no understanding.
Right,
So the
right.
season that I was in was just getting to know what church was about. But I didn't know what God was about
Right.
at 13, 14 years old. So here in this time, in the season that I was in my winter season, I was getting to know who God was, and he took me during a time in my life to get to know who he was. Because for a long period of time, I was depending on a man during the seasons of my life, to bring me everything that I needed, to give me comfort, to give me peace, to love me the way that I wanted to be loved. But God took me during that time and that season in my life back to him to remind me that it's him that I need.
Right,
It's him that I have to put ahead of all the seasons in my life.
Wow.
So during that time, I learned more about him. And I didn't just learn about church, I got to learn who God was.
Right.
So during that time that we were separated, I was back in church, and not just in church, I began to read his word. I was praying, and I got to know God for myself. Not for what my grandma was telling me about him or other people's prayers,
Right.
but I got to know him for myself.
Yes.
So then I had it all in my life. Before that season in my life, I had people in my life that knew God, but I didn't know him for myself. So that was my winter season. I had to be still for a little bit to get to know who God was. And though it took some hurt and some pain that I went through during that time of that winter season, it still helped me to get to know who God was during that time.
Right.
Then my springtime came. The springtime was the renewing. He was planting seeds. He was rooting himself into my life. And then here comes another storm. During the process of my springtime, when God is seeding things within me and planting some roots within me, then I allowed my husband to come back home even after all of the storm we had already gone through. Now this is a funny thing because, like I said, you go through seasons and you have people and things in your life that are there for a lifetime, and some are only there for a season. Maybe his season was up and I brought him back in. God removed him because his season was up, but I brought him back in. Like Lamar was saying, the yoke. I put that yoke back on when God had already removed it. I took him back and I put it back on. So did things get better for me? No. And I prayed and I continued to go to church. I continued to read his word. I continued to pray and ask God, just fix it. Just fix it. During this season, God, I need you to fix him, to be the man that I need him to be for me, and the man he needs to be for his children, and the husband he needs to be for me. But it never was fixed. It never was fixed because that was a yoke I put back on that God tried to remove in the first place.
Okay.
So then my summer came. And in the summertime, temperatures get hot.
Come on.
All right.
Heat waves come. Heat waves come. The temperatures and the waves, they spike so high, trouble can come. So during that time, trouble came. Hands got put on me during this season. I got hands put on me. Infidelity continued to go on during this season of my life. Different tests before myself. Am I going to stay true to the seeds that God has planted in me now? Or am I going to begin to go backwards to satisfy my husband at the time? Or am I going to continue to keep going towards the next season, the next stage?
All right.
I was in fear of losing somebody that I loved, but I had to continue to go towards God, the person that was forever going to be there for me,
Right.
whether he was there or not.
Right.
So during that time, the trouble came, but the sun was still shining over me.
Okay.
Right. Praise God. All right. All right.
I just had during that time, I say the sun was still shining because during that storm, during that season of my life, God was still there.
Right.
The sun was still shining. But for me, I didn't realize it because I had my shades on. I had my shades on, so it looked dim to me. It looked dim to me. It looked for quite a while. Some of it I brought on myself because of the choices that I made. Like I said, I invited him back in. I allowed him to come back. And I know that, in the Word, God doesn't want you to get a divorce and things like that. But I also know that it says in His Word that He said that He came so that we can have life more abundantly. He didn't give His Son so that I can live in this mess for the rest of my life. I did 10 years like this. I did 10 years like this. So why did I invite it back into my life? So I can do another 10 years like that? No. Excuse me if I
Have your
drop
way,
some
Lord.
tears.
Have your way,
Praise
Lord.
God.
Have your way, Lord.
Praise
The
God.
Son says free is free
Thank you,
indeed.
Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus.
I made those choices because of the season. But during that season, the season was too hot. It got too heavy for me. Not realizing that God can manage all of the seasons I was going
on.
through.
Right now, all right.
All of my seasons. The last season came. The last season sometimes we may not like because it can hurt more at times than the summer. This season for me was my fall, my autumn season. During fall, the leaves fall.
Come on.
The leaves change. So during that time was my healing process.
Right.
During healing, sometimes that hurts because then God, once again, had to remove what was hurting me in the first place. When I invited back in, the yoke that I invited and put back on, He had to remove it again and it hurt. So the hurt that I went back down in 2009 when we separated, now here I am in 2012 going through it again. But it hurt even more than the first time because I invited it. I put it back on and God tried to remove it from me, but during this season, this is a season where He's trying to remove some things, the season of plucking, the season of that may cause some voids in my life, things that I may begin to miss, but maybe they're things that I didn't even need in the first place.